So yeah, that's not the, I don't think, yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about it later.
Good news, it auto-saved.
Hey, all right.
I have exactly 300 words. I can't say that it's like perfectly.
That's okay. I like it.
Makes-
Right at 300 words is okay.
It is what it is at this point.
I think Sonia will join us tonight. Sonia, if you're out there in cyberspace, please buzz in and say hi to us.
Hi.
Oh, there she is.
I am out.
She's
yes,
back.
I am in cyberspace.
All right. All right. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see you guys too.
Sorry that we didn't have a video last time. I got to class and noticed that I had my tripod but not the video camera, and so that was going to be tough. So Lauren had the idea to audio tape or audio record, so that's what we did. Did that come through? Is that understandable?
Actually, it really was. At times, there was a bit of echo from Nice's side, but I could hear everyone just fine.
Okay.
It was kind of cool because I was multitasking, and so I was listening and doing other stuff too. So.
And did you have the PowerPoint to go along then as well when it applied?
Well, some of it I couldn't see because I could tell that you were writing.
Yeah.
And so.
Right.
But I took note of that. You were kind of like saying what you were writing. So I just took note of that.
Was the stages of change? Did you get a diagram of the stages of change? Or did I forget to post that?
No, it wasn't on there.
Oh, okay.
But you mentioned a website, and I don't know if it was the .gov one or not. So
Yeah.
I went to that one.
Okay.
So it had all the stuff on there. I just didn't see where there was a triangle diagram or anything.
I want to send that because it just makes it easier to make a visual. And so I will post that or send an email.
Okay.
I promise. I can't believe I didn't do that. Makes me
I may
mad.
have overlooked it, but I didn't see it.
No, I'm pretty sure that I didn't do it. Okay, let's see here. But you did find the videos because I did post the YouTube videos, right?
Were there videos?
Yeah, I posted some YouTube videos.
Oh, rats. I don't remember seeing those. I saw the PowerPoint and all of the Word document handouts. Maybe I didn't scroll far enough.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, yeah, it's on there. And we'll have that in our review on what's important. So.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Okay, so let's get today's
Okay, I just sent you
PowerPoint.
my paper, whatever.
Gang, we're going to actually go into our text. So for those of you that spent money on the family therapy text, please grab that. And when I went over initially, I thought that I had included the chapter on satir. And looking at it this week, satir is actually chapter 7, and that's a big name for family therapy that will be tested on. There is a chapter that in between, like chapter 5, which is pretty light on what I think is going to be tested. So we won't spend a lot of time on chapter 5, but anyway, we'll hit some highlights that'll help you. This won't be the most riveting class that I give. This may be the most boring class. I'm sorry, I'm going to start off with that preface. This may be the most boring class that you take from me, but it's what we have to do to get educated and to pass our exams. And so the information I will pass along will be important to you in comps and also in your NCE.
Oh, I told you comps were 27. It's the 6th.
The comps are the 6th of March. Whew. Right around the corner. Okay.
So I will be here the 27th, but not.
Not the
Well, I might not be the 6th, since it's from 1 to 5 and I'll
might be,
Oh, wait, no, I have to be here the 6th, because that's our midterm, isn't it?
oh, okay, well, no, wait a minute, So are you telling me you have comps and a midterm on the same day?
That's what I'm telling you.
Oh, no. I can't do that. Does anybody else have comps on the 6th?
I'll be taking mine in June.
Okay, nice, so you've got a little bit.
Because right now, I'm taking 12 credit hours and I can only take it with 9 credit hours.
Okay,
That's understandable.
that's understandable for sure. Okay. Let's see if I can get you split, because I'd like to see.
Or if you want to give the other 2, and I can like, come in, I can take it, I guess I can come in and take it. I mean, I live in Enid, so it'd be easier for me than anybody else.
Well, I mean, I don't want to burden, I mean, because it's,
Like it would-
comps is a kind of deal that wipes your brain out. I mean, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not trying to freak people out, but it's 200 questions, and if you are working your way, reasoning your way through 200 questions, your neurons are fatigued. You're just ready to go home and nap it off. So I need to start using paper. What an invention! I don't use paper anymore. I just have. Let me pull up our syllabus, because I do have. I'll put it on the computer so we can follow along. Let's pull up our syllabus and see what it looks like. Go ahead and open this up. Okay, so here's our dates. We go down to our dates, and we made a little bit of a change. You know that this is actually the 20th, so we put trauma informed in on the 6th. You know, these things move down. We have next week actually addiction-related issues in family therapy, kind of combining what we'll talk about tonight with regards to addiction. And then we have the midterm on the 6th. And what I was trying to do is I was trying to split that up. I was trying to make it an even balance. You know, try not to get too much information
No, I think you should still have it, and
On-
then I'll just have to,
on the midterm.
I think you should still have it for everybody, and then I'll have to work
You
something
can
out.
have it as a take-home exam.
Right.
Because I agree, it should probably be before, I don't want to make everyone else wait till after spring break either. Unless they want to, but I
We
don't.
can have it a take-home ahead of time and then we submit it by March 6th
The-
on Blackboard.
The problem is if it's a take-home, then
Everybody will get an A.
the multiple choice format doesn't exactly work on the take-home test. It's more, you know, I do that purposefully because the test, like I've said before, that you have to take for licenses for graduation are in the moment. You have to think your way through it. So, yeah. Okay. Please, I'll have a vote. We have 3 people here of 4.
Only 3 didn't vote.
And if we move back, if we move it back to the 13th, I think that's the only fair way, because otherwise we'll have to have it next week, which.
Oh, I didn't see, I thought the next week was spring break. Yeah,
So we could actually have it the 13th. So spring break is the 20th.
Okay.
Okay. For those that would be extremely disheartened by moving the midterm back a week, please voice your concern now.
I'm not concerned about it. That would be good for the one taking the comprehensive exam on the 6th, so
It's
We
just,
can try to be understanding with her.
it's just not fair. I know, seriously, it wouldn't be, justice. Cause it's like you need to have that day to recuperate. Okay,
I don't mind having it on the 13th.
okay. I will do my best.
I don't mind either.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Lauren,
No problem.
says thank you. Okay, so we'll make one more change, and I'm gonna go ahead and edit this now. So and I'll repost it. Since we made two significant changes, this one for sure. So let's go ahead and move this midterm down to the 13th. We've already, oh, what happened to trauma informed? It disappeared.
When you put the other one over it.
Let's go ahead and move, we had trauma informed already. Move that up here. That was on the 6th. Oh, it just takes them out.
Yeah.
That's too bad. Okay, well, I'll have to do this on my own time. What I would like everybody to know is our midterm will be moved back a week to March the 13th. Please take note of that. We will move, with that move, I think that should be fine. Your midterm will consist of trauma informed and all of the topics above on the 27th, 20th, 13th. So it'll just encompass some more information. It may be weighted a little bit differently. I don't know. I hate to do that because if you're having an off day, I'll do my best to make it fair. Your last final may be pretty detailed on strengthening families, matrix model, and supportive resources. So we'll do our best. Okay, let's move on into our class. Okay, so who here has had any a class on family therapy yet? Okay, Lauren, you have. Nice, and Sonia, I remember that you have not either one, right?
That's right.
Okay. What was supposed to be a prerequisite for this class was an addictions and family 1. So, or is it a different title? And so you did more with this book.
Yes,
And
I've used that book.
Lauren,
Or in
you say
another class.
yes, you have used this book.
Yes.
Okay. So a lot of this is going to be review, so you can come on up here and teach this.
Yeah.
So,
They
So-
might want their money's worth. So, I better not.
So I'm not going to go into complete detail on this book because that was not the intent of this class. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to hit some major highlights. And I'm going to actually put a few things from my practice of family therapy and understanding therapy and applying theory to therapy. So when you're in the field and practicing, you have some like hands-on knowledge ready to go. So if you would please turn with me to, in your books, to page 54, which is the start of chapter 3. And so this is, it talks about the fundamental concepts of family therapy. And if you read about this, family therapy is actually a relatively new development in the field of psychology. You have people that were doing work in the 40s, a lot of folks working with significant mental illness, schizophrenia. Bowen worked a lot with folks with schizophrenia and their families, and the theorists that we're going to talk about really started practicing what you would term family therapy in the 50s. So that's kind of amazing to think about that. As when you think about Freud in the 1800s and Watson and the early theorists there, And you think, why didn't these people why didn't you pull the family in? I mean, gosh, this is where the dysfunction is. Let's get into the meat and potatoes and fixing things here. It wasn't until the 50s, and of course the theorists that we're going to cover, there's not a lot of diversity. I mean, Salvador Minuchin is at least from Argentina, so you have, anytime you go back and you look at, quote, founding fathers, you have a lot of white males in there. So I'm not, you don't get necessarily an accurate perspective of everyone. So there's definitely some limitations, and so when we get to Satir and some other folks, we'll see a little bit more diversity. But it's still, when we're covering the history of just about anything in academia, unfortunately, that's where we go. But times have changed, and there's more acceptance for folks to put different views in place, and I think that helps us understand people better. So families, therapy basics, addictions and families. If we're looking at Weiner in 1948, again, this is not that long ago, considering. Cybernetics really looked at a feedback loop, and that's going to be important when we start discussing structural therapy in just a moment. But you have circular causality and feedback loop. So if you look at, let's look at page 55 and cybernetics. If I could have a reader at the second paragraph there at the core.
At the core of cybernetics is the feedback loop, the process by which a system gets the information necessary to maintain a steady course. This feedback includes information about the system's performance relative to its external environment, as well as the relationship among the system's parts. Okay, so it goes on to discuss negative feedback, which indicates that a system is straying off the mark and that corrections are needed to get it back on course. And then you also have positive feedback, being information that reinforces the direction a system is taking. You can actually have, later on we're going to talk about positive feedback as a way of reinforcing bad patterns. So, think of positive as in the terms of like Skinner, positive reinforcement. You're adding something that's going to keep it going. So, you can see figure 3.1, circular causality of a feedback loop, and figure 3.2, feedback loop in a couple's house cleaning. So you have the task of house cleaning, you have Billy's contribution and Jan's contribution, and it keeps it operating. Pretty simple type of process. I'm not going to get too worked up on that. We do. And I really consider systems theory as foundational. You're looking at, how do you say that, Lauren? Bertalanffy?
I don't know.
Since you've been
I haven't heard it pronounced though.
Okay.
Not to my.
Okay. Well, that's a name that you'll remember when you see it on a test.
Yeah.
So 1940s really pioneered systems theory. Stating that the essential properties of a system arise from relationships among the parts. So that's something very important to remember when we're discussing families, is each person has their own role, but as far as a system, it's how these parts interact with each other. So that's on page, for those of you that are following along, that's on page 59 under General Systems Theory. And then moving on to page 60, you look at social constructionism. and this is getting a kind of a larger perspective, not just the dynamics of the family, but looking at how we relate to the world on the basis of our interpretations, shaped by the social context in which we live. So, if you took a family in the Republic of Congo versus a family in Canada, that the social context, the societal and environment around which that family is functioning is obviously going to make a difference on how that family functions, what's important to that family. It definitely holistically will impact it. So, taking a bigger look, I think that opens the door for us to be a little more open-minded toward the impact of culture and larger societal influences. So social constructionism, if you look on page 61, about a third of the way down, gives a definition there. So what we're doing is we're doing a quick overview. I mean, we're going to jump into some of these concepts a little bit deeper, but that's what this first chapter does here. And then we have Bowlby and Ainsworth. For those of you that have been studying for a while, what are Bowlby and Ainsworth famous for?
Well, didn't Bowlby do the attachment studies was it the children?
Yes.
Because with the children.
Bowlby and Ainsworth, absolutely. They're important with attachment theories. So, for those of you that have worked with children that have been in DHS custody or experienced significant trauma, we'll harken back to that. A lot of times you have individuals with disturbed attachment. Working in addictions, I can tell you that this is a very important kind of mindset to bring to the table with you as you're working with families that have people struggling with addiction. Many times, and I noticed this early on when I worked in the rehab in Tulsa, people would present with personality disorders that formally would be Axis 2. You think about histrionic or narcissistic or borderline or antisocial. When you look at personality disorders, there has to have been some pathological attachment because of the way that personality developed at that young age. So understanding how a person got to be how they are. Many times you'll see, I've seen a lot of folks with borderline personality disorders in the substance abuse treatment or addiction treatment, and knowing that they probably came from a background of significant trauma and some really difficult times attaching to their caregivers, that helps me know, okay, how I'm going to approach treatment with them, how I'm going to approach that basic therapy interaction, and knowing what's driving their motivations. Okay, what goals can we set that are going to be important to this person? So sometimes it takes a little while to recognize a personality disorder because they oftentimes can present as very charming and they can endear themselves to you very quickly. But after a while, we're going to talk about triangles in just a moment. They tend to create very dysfunctional triangles that are functional for them. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So attachment theory is very important. If I'm going to give you something to kind of grasp onto, it talks about Mary Ainsworth at the top of the second column on 63. Ainsworth has some really important work. even Harlow, I may not test, I
I was gonna
probably,
say, when I said with children, I was trying to, the reason I said with children, those two is because Harlow was with the monkey.
Harlow's
Wire
was with them, I'll show you Harlow's experience.
the
YouTube
cloth
actually
monkey, wire monkey.
has a pretty good display of that. Harlow attachment. I put in T. Here we go. Food or security. Harlow's experiment with monkeys attachment. I assume there's supposed to be a narrative that goes along with this. Well, I'll kind of explain it
Well, I was
since,
gonna say, there's, they show just one, but I think they might have, maybe a longer one would show them when they're actually scaring them.
yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
what they did is they gave, they put two little symbols in a cage for a monkey to choose from. And one is and see that's kind of a cloth.
That one looks like it's,
It makes the little monkey feed on this cloth kind of doll.
but I thought that's different because I thought that they fed it only from the wire and
I
then,
thought so too.
so I don't know that this one's like,
A good example.
That's a good
Yeah, here it is.
example.
So here's what it's doing. So it got accustomed
Yeah.
to feeding to the doll, and so what they're going to do is they're going to now have the chimp get accustomed to feeding from the wire, and then so what they're going to do is they're going to test. Then when they're going to scare the little guy purposefully, and what it'll do is it'll cling to the one that is more, it's not the one that's getting food from, it's the one that feels like mom. So the attachment is more, what they're showing is attachment is more important than food, is the way I'm taking that. And there's also a critical period. So it's kind of like with the cat, kind of the little kitten experiment I talked about with the eyes. There's a critical period for bonding, and when that bonding's disrupted, that's kind of goes to the heart of attachment theory. So if you would go to the middle section of page 63 in that first paragraph, or the first column, where it talks about Harry Harlow, 1958. I'll test some, I'll put in a question on Harlow as well. Let's get back into this. Okay. So one of the things that they talk about, that's that feedback loop. It's a little bit more complicated than just the feedback loop they referred to. Is the concept of being, or complementarity, which basically is reciprocity and interrelatedness of a family system. So if you look on page 65, if I could have a reader to talk about complementarity.
complementarity refers to the reciprocity that is the defining feature of every relationship. In any relationship, one person's behavior is yoked to the other's. Remember the symbol for yin and yang, the masculine and feminine forces of the universe. How far down you want me to read?
Yeah, maybe one. Just go finish that next paragraph, please.
Notice how the two parts are complementary and occupy one space. Relationships are like that. If one person changes, the relationship changes. If John starts doing more grocery shopping, Mary will likely do less.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's kind of it's very common sense, but that also keeps, there can be a positive feedback loop in the sense that it keeps people entrenched in old patterns. So if John, actually, Mary probably would love for John to do more grocery shopping. That one may not actually be reinforced and stay this. Mary's probably going to keep running out and just, no, John, don't buy groceries. But there are some things, especially when we're talking about addictions, and you talk about codependency, where a person gets used to how a person is under the influence of a substance, and they actually consciously or unconsciously start reinforcing that person's addiction, buying them liquor. Well, I know if they're drunk, they're just going to leave me alone. I'm not going to have to deal with them. You know, or that can be a very it can be a very sick and unhealthy. It looks dysfunctional, but it actually has some homeostasis, some balance. In other words, it's serving two purposes. So we'll get into talking about that, especially next week. So you have circular feedback loops, circular causality. At the bottom of page 65, there's a paragraph on circular causality. If I could have somebody read that for me, please.
I don't have a book, so.
Oh no. Oh,
No,
nice.
I can read it.
Okay.
Sorry.
This idea of mutual or circular causality is enormously useful for therapists because so many families come in looking to find the cause of their problems and determine who is responsible. Instead of joining the family in a logical but unproductive search for who started what, circular causality suggests that problems are sustained by an ongoing series of actions and reactions. Who started it? It rarely matters.
It rarely.
If it seems that, oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Go ahead and read go through that last sentence. Go ahead.
If it seems that A causes B, consider this. Is it possible that B also causes A?
Almost universally. Well, Lauren, I think you've spoken to this. People bring their children in and say, fix them. And so if you're thinking about applying that to addiction, you know, consider that as well. People are going to bring in, or a person is going to present, the PO is going to say they have to get counseling, and so fix them. They're the problem. That's the problem. And what you're not seeing then is this, you know, I put the infinity symbol there for a reason, because there's reasons why people get caught up in this rut. And so if you're treating someone in an inpatient setting, say you're working at a rehab and someone comes in and I've been married to the same lady for 20 years, or I've been married to the same guy for 20 years, and you know, they drink right along with me. Or there's never a time when there's not alcohol in the house, or there's never a time when there's not marijuana in the house. Are you really going to be able to affect a change for this person if they go right back to that same loop that they may have made this change, but this loop's operating? It's really easy to get right back into that. So that's something to really consider. I'm going to give you a model that you can use in your therapies that will prove useful. But we'll get there in just a moment. I think these are some of the things when this starts making sense. Triangles. Triangulation, what does it mean? What is triangulation? Somebody give me their own definition. Okay, I've got a little sample of one on the PowerPoint. So I'm married to Nice, and so Nice, you and I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she is she's at that stage where she's kind of testing some limits. And so she knows that if she goes to me, I'm going to tell her no. But if she goes to you, you're probably going to give it to her. So let's say that, what do 10-year-olds like? What are 10-year-olds really into these days?
Those little rubber bands they make bracelets out of.
Little rubber bands they make bracelets out of. So Lauren's a 10-year-old, and Lauren's our daughter, and I said, she said, please, Dad, can I have some of these little rubber bands they make bracelets out of? No, you don't need those.
I do need them because everyone in school has them, so.
No, that's ridiculous. You just go in there and do your homework. You don't need those. So then Lauren then goes to Nice and makes the same
You
plea.
can have them. We'll get you some. What's your favorite color?
I want the bag of mixed neon colors.
We'll get them the next time we go to Walmart.
Thank you, because that's
Just don't tell your dad.
that's the only
See,
way.
she
That's
did
the only
it. She
way
did.
I'm
Yes. She did it. Don't tell your dad. Yeah, that's it. That's a triangle right there. And don't tell Dad. That can start very, very easily, especially with parents dealing with the substance use of a teen. And if any time that I've seen a non-single parent situation, there has been a triangle, almost universally. I don't think there's a time that I can remember there wasn't a triangle with at least two parents that are involved with the substance abusing teen. So that's very important to keep in mind. Who is the more permissive? Who it would be considered, quote, the enabler? Who is the more strict? It's important to know, and it's not necessarily, if you're looking at standardized addiction treatment, the enabler is the one that's the problem. Well, I still want us to have that feedback loop in mind. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about a particular situation. So you're saying in a teen situation, in a situation in which you had an addiction situation with a teen, that usually they have a strict parent, permissive parent.
Yes, I would say when they have both parents, that's almost universal.
Well, does the permissive parent necessarily have to be giving into the drug use, or is that just the same as even? Can permissive be like looking the other way, getting them out of trouble instead of, it doesn't have to be like, oh, you're using great, that's fine. I mean, because, can the permissive parent, I guess I'm asking, still be against the usage, but
somehow reinforce it?
Somehow reinforcing it.
Absolutely.
Like by either getting them out of trouble that they might get into, or looking the other way, or thinking the problem's not as bad as it is that still the same thing?
And what happens with that, when that happens, they actually reinforce, because there's a conflict between, you have a triangle, you have this little person going up here, you have these two people in a fight, while this person gets to do what they want to do. Well, this person, and now these people are pitted against them. Well, I want your affection, so I'm not going to tell your dad, or vice versa, And it becomes a mess when parents are not on the same page and do not communicate well together. If you do have both parents involved with a teen addict, it is so very important that those people communicate well, because you're gonna if you open these two up for and I'll show you the way this works in just a moment. But if you open those two up for communication, you're going to eliminate that triangle, because this won't be two different views. It'll be the same view, and you'll just have the one feedback. But I'm not saying that the restrictive parent, because the restrictive parent I've seen can be abusive.
Can they trade back and forth? And by that I mean the parents trade back and forth on.
Oh, on their roles? Ooh, good question. I've probably not seen that as often, but
I
here.
mean, like, be okay on one angle of it, but not necessarily on the other?
Okay, explain that a little more.
I mean, when I think about a particular situation, I would have said that the person I'm thinking about was the strict parent, but also, and others, but also it tended to be the same person who always seemed to get bailed out in the end.
Oh, having the same, so this person may have had some guilt over overreacting and over punishing. I have
don't
seen
know.
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're in trouble and they're the person who's paying to get them out, even though they seem to be the person who brings the hammer down the hardest at home,
So they're really inconsistent in their own.
I guess.
Yeah, that can cause some problems too, for sure. And you do see that, you see parents that set impossible, I'm gonna ground you for a month, it starts right now. And you can never go through that whole, and what parents will do then is, oh, no, you did good for a couple of days. So yeah, you can have your phone back, and yeah, you can go out this weekend. It's very important to set realistic consequences, just like it's important to set realistic goals. They need to be logical and actually real. So yeah, that's I don't know if I'm saying the exact same thing that you are, but hopefully close.
Because that's the only other thing I can think of. The only other question I would have would be, would it still be possible? I know you said that most of them are triangulation, but is it possible to have two strict parents and still have that, or not?
Yeah, you can still have two strict parents and still have a child that's gonna, be facing some addiction issues. There's a lot of facets that goes in that peers, peer influences, trauma, parenting. I mean, you have a lot of things that can influence whether somebody becomes addicted or not. I mean, you talk about genetics. There is a genetic component to it. So, yeah, it's not nothing's really ever 100%, especially in psychology. But we're getting better as we go along. Any other comments on triangles? I have one other point, but
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I just wanted to ask, because you said what's important in triangulation, especially when working with parents and the children who are affected, is to be able to establish communication within the parents. How can a counselor get to do that, especially if you have one parent who is promoting the abuse and the other one who is more who can also be abusive, although they may be the ones restricting the abuse?
That's tough, and that's getting into some deeper, not necessarily addiction issues. It may be, there's some faults in that relationship, or it may, there's been times where, you've had a client that's known, maybe even the mother knows there was the father abused this person, either physically, sexually, emotionally, and I can't, and I'm going to stick up for this person, although I can't leave this person because they're all of our financial security. I mean, I've seen situations like that, and that's hard to do. That's not easy. What we're talking about here is difficult work, because what will happen unless you can somehow get everyone on board with our love for this person, this person with addiction. Our love for this person is what brings us together. I show it this way, you show it this way. Somehow we've got to be consistent, because this is killing them. And I think. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because there are times where you are working with a child and one parent will be willing to show up in in therapy and the other one will not be willing to show up in therapy. Actually, there are those parents who will be discouraging the therapy and say, okay, my child doesn't need that. And so, as a counselor, it's gonna be tough to kind of be able to work with both parents, especially when they're in disagreement, to even be able to help them communicate and help the child along.
That's very insightful. You have me nodding my head and Lauren nodding her head, and maybe even Sonia. I can't see her at this point, but anyone.
I agree.
Anyone who's worked in the field at all, you're absolutely right. You'll have one parent that's invested in therapy, and a lot of times another parent that won't be. One of the things that I've used, and I'll digress here for just a minute and we'll jump back on. One of the things that I've used to help the child is a family contract. And all members get on board. And I've even just done a parent contract between both the parents that the child isn't even aware of, especially nasty custody battles. I've seen, this is my other point I was going to make, that is almost, again, universal. When you have a non-custodial parent, say you have a split family, a non-custodial parent versus somebody that's got custody and with the child, 5 days a week versus 2, or has them for 2 weeks versus every 1 week. The one that doesn't have custody is typically the one that's permissive. Why would that be?
Because they see them less and they feel like I get to spend less time with them. Either let me make the time that I spend with them not arguing and not crying. I'll just give them what they want. Or they also want them to like them more because they feel like because they spend less time with them that maybe they don't like them, and being permissive would be part of them being
Yes.
liked.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. I mean, you're working, if you have somebody that only sees them on the weekend, you're just working to get that relationship. And that's even therapy to just do discipline, is you've got to have some positive time with the child to enforce that discipline. Because if you're always putting down a heavy hand, that's not good parenting. So I see it a bit, but what you generally get is you get somewhat of an extreme. They have a bedtime of 10 o'clock and you let them stay up till 2. What are you doing? And then the parents will fight, and then that triangle will happen, and then the child gets inconsistency. So I usually just get a communication agreement between the parents that says we won't yell, we won't cuss in front of the child, we're not going to make the child not trust the other parent. A lot of times, the one parent will badmouth the other parent while they're not there. Both ways. It can get really bad. And so having that agreement, and if somebody breaks that, if it's ever in court, you can say, well, so-and-so didn't abide by they've got a signed agreement here. And generally the people will agree, but then a lot of times they don't abide by it. But that might be a way, to get people, even if they're not in the office with you, to say, hey, there's a contract here for you to look at. I have a sample one if y'all are interested, but it's okay. I'll see if I can put that on the website. Sample contract. But it's like it would allow that party that's not so invested at least to get a little bit invested. They're putting their name on a contract. Oh, you're not going to sign it? I guess you don't love your child. You can put a little bit of pressure, maybe not that directly, but you know what I'm getting at there. So, but what you don't want to get is a therapist pitted against family members. Watch out, because we're going to talk about minutia and joining families in a minute. Watch out being part of a triangle, especially if it's not set up as couples therapy. You want to have a no secrets concept in couples therapy, because if somebody starts sharing a lot of stuff that they don't, well, you can't tell my spouse this. You don't want to be in that mode as a couples therapist. That's dangerous territory. So that's a different topic, but stay out of being a triangle. Okay, so we're gonna go over this, and we are gonna then take a break, because we've been through some pretty dry information. Okay, what you're seeing is actually from CBT, but I think it will illustrate the circular feedback and a family system, and you can change. I usually use this infinity symbol because you'll have, for instance, you, consider you over here, and let's say this is just the outside world, but I usually will put another individual. In this case, well, we'll just follow the example. This has an infinite number of possibilities. So anyway, this is a cognitive behavioral model, and you can see we have our thoughts represented here, our feelings, and our actions. Think, feel, do. For those that are familiar with the think, feel, do cycle. We have the. I'll erase this for now. We have the outside world. Let's say that let's use a reference that's going to be relevant to substance use. So let's say that I had a car wreck. And I really like my car, and so my first thought is, I can't live without my car. Sans car. My feelings are hurt, disappointed, sad. And my actions become, well, I don't have enough money and I didn't have car insurance. So my actions are to sit